We talk about how you may experience the memorial. So some clients have suggested that I experience the memorial by, I do a drive-by and I just see it, because every morning I can see my husband up there in the grave, and that's how I experience it. So out of that, we built a stainless steel totem that on a certain light, it is angled at his birthday, so the light comes onto the face, so there's a shimmer. Or it's angled at a certain point where this person travels up and down the street between 8 and 8:30 at certain times, and they can see the glimmer. That's the connection with the memorial. So it's really important to understand how they experience the memorial and what times. Other people will come and sit by the memorial in their car and play music. So they might be several meters away. So we do need to know from how they actually access the memorial, whether it be by sitting in the car and walking down the track to the memorial, or they just remain at a distance. Whatever the experience is, we customize that to the engagement of that experience. It's really important. Once they, potentially if they arrive at the memorial, the first things they may do is just have a quick look around, pick up some rubbish, twigs, because most of the structures here are in botanical settings, so we've got a lot of leaf fallout, and then they go through that sort of tendering process of doing a little bit of tidy up. Once that's done, it's almost put to bed, a lot of these structures have the ability to sit and be still. And depending on the time of year, some of the structures have an overhead protection, so you're out of the sun. So that also comes back to understanding how they want to experience the memorial. And if we can sort of invite a deeper experience, a longer experience of being quiet and still and calm, then there's a deeper engagement of the emotion, the inner dialogue. About 10 years ago, I had this experience with this extraordinary family, and they were talking about their father as a hero and his contribution to the planet. He was a mathematician of incredible intellect and mythology, and he was in fact John Nash's sparring partner. And out of this design process was this one line at the end of his document, his end of his PhD, end of I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about the equilibrium theory. And then based on looking at the site, his sunset, his sunrise, I discovered that his birth date and his death date, as axial lines across the memorial, were exactly equal. So there's a symmetry. So there's this sort of fantastic overlay of his body of work and the way in which he exited the world. He concluded it by math. So there is such joy in the process of discovery. So out of that came the form. We associated scale, positioning, representation of sunrise and sunset, using the light of shadow. There was, from memory, I think there was a line in a poem about shadow across sight, hence the deepening of the narrative. There's the connection. And ultimately, this structure is private and abstract because only the family know the secrets behind the mathematics, the geometry. This project was to me a fascination in the process of discovery. Out of the discovery was built a form, and out of the form was built an experience of engagement, an experience of ritual to watch the shadows at certain times of the year, the birth date, the death date. To my right, there's a project that I did a fair few years ago, meeting this extraordinary lady called Sarah, who I'm still friends with. And often that is the experience of the memorial, that you become friends with your clients. A wonderful gift. Sarah spoke candidly and honestly about her experience of the space, the grave, the mound, and her times she spent here. So there was almost a custom fit to the ritual and the relationship of her experiences here. She told me loving times of being on the couch with her legs over her partner, reading, and that sense of wanting that to continue. This structure is based on that very aspect, that very one aspect of ritual. The ritual of love and the connection with her partner. It has a seat, a gentle curved seat, when in fact the elevation of that seat, that shape of that seat, is the same positions her legs would go up over her partner's. Then we embrace that in a curving form. So when you are lying in that space, all you see is that simple curve around, the dissipation of form. So you are completely private from the road to my right. So we think about the privacy of the space. She said to me profoundly, I want this memorial to fit in terms of materiality. So hence the memorial is just cast concrete. It is growing old. It is starting to blend with the others. So the material connection. But as you come down from the car, you experience this colour explosion on the inside, the mosaics. The inspiration of the work of Antonio Gaudi, Spain. What an extraordinary place to be in terms of experiencing the way they do memorials and cemeteries and their architecture. And that opens up a whole new conversation about colour and our fear of colour. Where's that fear coming from? Well, it's the fear is coming from, I suggest, from putting it on the line. This is what I can do, what I can't do. This is as good as I've got, and that's okay. And I think that's also an overlay of memorials that, particularly with the brochure one, it's okay to do that one because I'm not interested in doing much more than that because that's all I know, that's all I see around me. But then you come across the occasional project like this one here, you go, wow, where did that come from? Well, it comes from a series of conversations, of care. Sarah has spoken to me about her love of coming to the structure and her deep connection with the form and that extraordinary experience we had together as a design team, a collaboration. Her friends come by, the riders of Lincoln leave objects, they leave mementos and souvenirs. They have a ride once a year where they collimate in coming to the cemetery and sit by and say hello to this man who was part of their crew. They become part of the ritual, and through only conversations you understand that. The threshold here inscribed La Boy Sarah is how she signed off her cards, and potentially this was perhaps one of the last times she ever signed it. So it becomes the entry or the exit, the last and the beginning of the memorial. A poignant overlay of her tradition in writing. A project in which we're working on now, so it's unbuilt, is for a memorial for a young poet. And through conversations with the family, it was the idea of further engagement with his community. So we designed this space where you come into a seating area and it has two flanking walls. And one flanking wall has his poetry cut into the still forms. And the other side has other poetry cut into the still forms. And overhead is a series of sketches that he did, which were the bind of the words, the entry to the poem. So when you're in the space, you do your own poetry and you stick it up inside the walls. So you've got the further engagement of community of poetry. It has a simple garden in front of it, but the culmination is the typical headstone, only in form, but it is the same height and scale of the man, but it's in white glass. And it says one word, exactly where his heartline is, poet. So the idea of engagement through writing, in a public sense by posting, I think will be an extraordinary experience in this memorial. The lavender garden in front, the wispiness, the aroma, the different light levels, the association with the engagement of writing, the simple plank that comes down as your desk, which it sort of connects back to a monk in a tower, or a monk in a cell, or a monk in some sort of cathedral writing. Simple structure. The seat is the idea of this travel case. This man didn't travel, but we're taking that on board as he travelled in his mind. So we're doing a series of postcards of the adventures that he potentially had in his mind, in his dreams, in his fantasies, in his yearns and wants. So it's okay not to travel physically, but to travel emotionally and spiritually and in dreamland is a wonderful attribute to this structure.